The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars. But beyond the familiar routes of trade and travel lay regions that most avoided. One such place was known as the Shattered Belt, a sector so far from inhabited space that few had ever seen it. Hidden deep within its dark corridors of dust clouds and drifting asteroids rested something that had been there for longer than any living mind could recall. They were called the Black Armada. Thousands of giant warships floated in formation, their black hulls swallowing all light. They had no markings, no visible movement, and no trace of crew. For generations, they had been silent, drifting together like an army frozen in time. Stories about them passed from trader to trader, often whispered late in the night. Some said the ships were cursed, others claimed they were ghosts of a long-dead civilization. But the truth was stranger still, though no one alive yet knew. It died far away, on Earth's orbital defense station. Commander Owen stood at the observation deck. His eyes scanned the stream of new reports coming in. The Threxian Dominion had taken 3 more colonies in the last month. The map of the galaxy was changing too quickly. Red zones territory under Threxian control were spreading like spilled ink. Owen had fought into border skirmishes against the Dominion. He knew they were not just another expanding power. The Threxians conquered with precision. They dismantled defenses in days, crushed resistance in hours, and reshaped entire worlds to serve their own fleets. Against them, most of the Council of Systems was too afraid to act. Yet something strange had appeared in the latest intelligence report. The long-range probes, scanning beyond the frontier, had detected energy readings in the Shattered Belt. The signature was faint but unusual reactor, output far older than any active ship, yet still holding a stable power curve. It matched no known technology in the current era. Owen called his chief science officer, Mara, to the deck. She approached, holding a tablet filled with sensor data. "This came from Probe 26, she said, tapping the screen. "Location is near coordinates Epsilon 79 in the Shattered Belt. Look at this pattern. The core frequency is close to human standard reactors." Owen frowned. "Human standard? That's impossible. No human ship has ever gone that far out. And these readings, they're not just one reactor. There are hundreds, maybe thousands clustered together." Mara hesitated before replying. "Commander, there's an old legend about that sector. Some call it the resting place of the Black Armada." Owen had heard the name before, usually from older captains who spoke as if telling a story to pass time on long voyages. But he had never paid much attention. "The Black Armada? You mean those ghost ships people talk about?" "Yes," Mars said quietly. "The stories say they've been out there for millennia, untouched. Some believe they belong to an ancient alliance that fought a war no one remembers. Others think they're just wrecks." Owen turned back to the viewing window. "If they're just wrecks, they shouldn't be giving off active reactor signals. And if they're not wrecks," the thought trailed off. Across the galaxy, battles were raging. Humanity had joined the Council of Systems only a decade ago. They were the youngest race in the Alliance, with the smallest fleet compared to other powers. Yet Earth had a history of survival, rising from wars, rebuilding from disasters, and adapting faster than most species thought possible. Still, facing the Dominion would require more than courage. It would require strength no one currently had. As Owen studied the map, a secure message blinked on his console. It wasn't from any known council channel. The encryption was old, ancient by modern standards, but somehow it bypassed every security protocol. The message contained only one line, displayed in plain, unpolished text: "When humanity enters the battle, the Black Armada will awaken." He read it twice, then a third time. His first thought was that it was some kind of trick, perhaps even a Threxian attempt to lure his fleet into a trap. But there was something about the way it was written. No coordinates, no threat, no demand. Just a statement, as if it were a fact. Mara leaned closer to read over his shoulder. "That is strange. The system shows no sender address. It just appeared in our data stream." Owen didn't answer right away. He was thinking of the sensor readings, the ancient energy signatures, the location that matched the old stories. If the Black Armada was real, and if it could be awakened, It might be the only force capable of stopping the Dominion's expansion across the stars. The Threxians continued their march. In the council chamber, debate dragged on without action. But in Owen's mind, a decision was already forming. Humanity could not afford to wait. If there was even a chance that the Armada existed and that they would respond to humans, it had to be investigated. He turned to Mara. Prepare a small recon group. We'll need fast ships, cloaked sensors, and enough supplies for a deep space run. We're going to the Shattered Belt. Her eyes widened. That's uncharted space. No rescue if something goes wrong. Owen allowed himself a thin smile. If we succeed, there won't be a need for rescue. If we fail, well, we won't be around to worry about it. In the dark silence beyond known space, the Black Armada remained still. The ancient ships floated as they always had, their hulls blacker than the void around them. But deep inside their cores, something stirred. A signal had reached them, a signal carried not in words, but in the presence of a people they had once known. In the heart of the largest vessel, dormant systems blinked to life. Energy conduits pulsed faintly, as if taking a first breath after a long sleep. Somewhere in the ancient code, an old command sequence began to run. The Black Armada had waited for a long time. Now, the wait might soon be over. The Council of Systems met inside a great orbital ring that circled the gas giant Varela. It was a shining place, full of banners and polished glass corridors. But on this day, its halls felt heavy. The Threxian Dominion's latest victories had shaken the galaxy. Even the most distant worlds now feared that their turn would come soon. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber. Some were tall and silver-skinned, others scaled and broad. Humans were among the smallest delegations in number, their section seated near the back. When the meeting began, the council speaker's voice carried across the vast room. The Dominion has taken another 3 worlds, the speaker said. We have received no surrender offers from them, only demands for unconditional submission. Their fleets now control half the Meridian Corridor. If we do not act, the rest will fall. A murmur spread through the assembly, but most delegates avoided speaking. Everyone knew the truth. Uniting against the Threxians meant risking their own fleets and worlds. The representative from the Roval species, tall and sharp-featured, rose to speak. The Dominion's power is overwhelming. If we act now without preparation, we risk losing everything. We must fortify our home systems and wait for the right moment. Owen sat in the observation section, listening with growing frustration. Waiting was exactly what the Threxians wanted. Every day that passed allowed them to strengthen their grip. He glanced at Earth's official delegate, a woman named Helena Ward. She was calm, but her hands were clenched tight on the desk. When her turn came, Helena rose. The right moment is now. Every day we delay, the Dominion grows stronger and more worlds fall. Humanity may be the youngest member of this council, but we will not stand by while entire civilizations vanish. Earth's fleets are ready to deploy. Her words caused a wave of whispers. Some seemed impressed. Others clearly thought she was reckless. The representative from the Varic Union stood and faced her. Your fleets are small. Your worlds are few. Do you mean to send your people into a war you cannot win? Helena did not flinch, perhaps, but the choice is between fighting now or being destroyed later. We choose to fight. Owen could feel the weight of those words. Humanity had been in the council for just 10 years. They were still considered untested in galactic politics, but humans had a way of throwing themselves into challenges that others feared. Sometimes it was that very boldness that turned the tide. The council chamber erupted into debate. Some delegates argued for an immediate alliance against the Dominion, others for complete withdrawal. In the end, the speaker announced that no united military action would be taken. Each member world could act as it saw fit. Helena returned to her seat, her expression steady. She did not need the council's approval. Humanity's decision had already been made. Later, aboard the Earth Fleet's flagship, Owen received his formal orders. Earth's defense fleet would move to the Meridian Corridor within the week to support the endangered frontier worlds. It would be dangerous. Human ships would be fighting without the backing of most of the council. But there was no time to wait. As preparations began, Owen reviewed the latest intelligence. His mind kept returning to the strange message he had received earlier. When humanity enters the battle, the Black Armada will awaken. It was an odd coincidence. The moment Earth committed to war, the words of that message seemed more real. He called Mara to his office. "We're going to war, but I want the recon group for the Shattered Belt ready before we move to the quarter. If the Black Armada is real, we need to know before this war swallows us whole." Mara nodded. "I'll start assembling the team. But Commander, if the Armada exists, and if it's as old as the stories say, there's no telling what they might do. They could see us as allies, or as intruders." Owen leaned back in his chair. "If there are allies, they could save countless lives. If they're not, we'll deal with it. But I'd rather take that risk than face the Dominion with what we have now, across the fleet." The human crews worked tirelessly. Supplies were loaded, weapons calibrated, and long-range comms tested. Morale was mixed. Some were eager to fight, others quietly afraid. Yet all of them knew that humanity had chosen a path from which there was no return. In the quiet hours before departure, Owen walked the length of the docking bay. Rows of sleek warships sat ready, their hulls polished and marked with Earth's insignia. Pilots checked their fighters, engineers tightened final connections. There was a sense of purpose in the air. The day of departure came. From Earth's orbit, the fleet pushed into deep space, engines burning bright against the darkness. Communications traffic filled the command bridge. Status reports, last-minute adjustments, and calls from families saying goodbye. Halfway through the journey to the Meridian Corridor, Owen stood at the large tactical display. The map showed their main route, but a faint secondary path branched off toward the Shattered Belt. The recon group's course. Mara was already on her way with 3 fast frigates. Their orders clear: locate the source of the energy readings and gather as much data as possible. Owen knew they might find nothing but cold, empty hulls. Or they might find the truth behind the legend. Either way, humanity had already stepped into the fire, far away, beyond the reach of ordinary sensors. The Black Armada drifted in the darkness. They had not moved for ages, but the faint hum of ancient power ran through them now, somewhere deep in their vast network. A signal awaited confirmation, and old code linked to the presence of a very specific kind of life. For the first time in centuries, the Armada's systems detected human ships moving closer, and with that detection, something began to change. Energy surged through conduits that had been cold for generations. One by one, their black holes absorbed the starlight and seemed to grow darker still, as though the void itself was preparing for war. The Black Armada was not yet awake, but it was listening. The journey to the Shattered Belt was long and silent. Mara's small recon group 3 fast frigates moved through uncharted space with shields on standby and weapons primed. Their mission was clear: locate the source of the strange energy readings, confirm the presence of the so-called Black Armada, and return with any information they could gather. The first sight of the belt was unsettling. Massive shards of rock drifted through the void, some the size of cities, others like jagged knives in the dark. There was no sunlight here, only the faint glow of distant stars. Navigation was slow, as every ship had to weave carefully between the drifting debris. Mara stood on the bridge of the lead frigate, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. The readings grew stronger the deeper they went. It was no longer just 1 or 2 signals, it was hundreds, tightly packed together. "Still think this is just an old legend?" asked Lieutenant Harris from the sensor station. Mara didn't answer immediately. She had seen enough to know something was out there. "No," she said finally, "this is real." Hours later, the ships emerged from a dense asteroid cluster, and there they saw them. The Black Armada. Row upon row of enormous ships floated in formation, each one so vast that the human frigates could have landed on their hulls and still had room to spare. Their surfaces were made of a strange black material that seemed to drink in the light. No markings, no visible windows, only smooth, cold armor. The fleet was silent, no movement, no transmissions. Yet the human sensors lit up with reading, a steady reactor output from each vessel. all running at the same ancient frequency. By all the stars, Harris whispered, they're alive. Mara ordered a slow approach. The human ships drifted closer, their engines at minimum thrust to avoid appearing hostile. Then it happened. A low hum vibrated through every human vessel, deep and resonant, as though the void itself was speaking. The Black Armada's hulls began to glow faintly along their edges, lines of dim silver light tracing patterns that no one recognized. Commander, Harris said, his voice tight. We're receiving a signal. Put it through, Mara ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was not human, yet its tone was calm, almost solemn. We remember your kind. Mara felt a chill. She exchanged a look with her crew. Identify yourself, she said, keeping her voice steady. You are of the same blood as those who fought beside us long ago, the voice replied. Your ancestors stood in the First Great War. When the stars burned and the enemy came, we stood together. You have returned. The crew looked at one another in disbelief. No human history recorded such a war. Humanity had only left its home system a few centuries ago. Whatever this armada was talking about was far older than anything. They knew. This is Commander Mara of the Earth Fleet, she said. If you know our people, tell us who you are. We are the Black Armada, the voice said. We were built for one purpose, to defend the living from the ancient darkness. When the war ended, we slept, waiting for the call of your kind. Now you come, and the enemy rises again. Mara's mind raced. If this was true, then humanity was connected to this fleet in some way no one had ever guessed. But she had to know more. What do you want from us? She asked. There was a pause. Then the voice answered, prove you are as they were. Pass the trial, and we will awaken. Fail, and we will return to our rest. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. A trial, out here, in the middle of nowhere? Before Mara could ask for details, a massive ship at the center of the Armada began to move. Its hull shifted apart, revealing a great docking bay glowing with pale light. The voice spoke again. Enter, and the trial will begin. Mara hesitated. Her orders were to observe, not engage. But this might be their only chance to unlock the truth behind the legend. She opened the comm channel to the other two frigates. Stay outside and monitor everything. I'll take the lead ship in. The frigate moved slowly toward the open bay. As they crossed the threshold, a strange sensation swept through the crew. The ship's systems flickered, then stabilized, as if the Armada itself was scanning every circuit, every life form, inside. The docking bay was massive, large enough to hold 100 frigates. The walls shimmered with flowing lines of light, and in the center stood a great structure shaped like a tower. The voice returned, now sounding as if it was inside Mara's own mind. The trial will test more than your strength. It will test your choices, your resolve, and your willingness to protect those who cannot protect themselves. As your ancestors did. Mara took a deep breath. Understood. What do we do? The lights on the tower brightened, and the floor beneath their ship seemed to dissolve. For a moment, there was only darkness. Then, without warning, the crew found themselves standing not on their ship but in a vast, simulated battlefield. It looked real. The air was cold, the ground scorched, and above them dark clouds swirled. In the distance, fires burned, and the sound of weapons thundered. This is the first scenario, the voice said. Your forces are outnumbered. You can hold your position and survive. Or you can lead an attack to save the Allied fleet trapped beyond the ridge. If you attack, you will lose many of your own. Choose. Mara's crew looked at her. The choice was clear: protect themselves or risk everything for the Allies. It was only a simulation, but the weight of it felt real. Mara clenched her jaw. We attack. We don't leave them behind. The battlefield came alive. The crew moved through the fight as if they were part of it, coordinating strikes, covering, retreating forces, and holding the line until the Allies escaped. By the time the battle ended, half their simulated force was gone. The voice spoke again. You have chosen as they did. The trial continues, and before anyone could react, the battlefield shifted into something new. The battlefield around Mara and her crew faded like mist, replaced by a strange calm. They stood once more in the glowing chamber inside the Black Armada's great vessel. The Tower of Light pulsed slowly, as if watching them. The voice returned, deep and steady. You have passed the first trial. Many have chosen to save themselves. You did not. The next trial will test not your strength, but your judgment. Mara's crew exchanged uncertain looks. The first test had been hard, but it was simple and purpose helped the Allies or not. Now, they had no idea what awaited them. The floor shifted again, and once more, the world around them changed. This time, they found themselves in a large chamber filled with civilians, hundreds of them. Frightened and trapped, across the room, a massive shielded generator hummed. Powering the life support systems. The voice spoke. The enemy approaches. You have only enough time to save one. If you save the civilians, the generator will be destroyed, and the base will fall within hours. If you save the generator, the civilians will not survive the assault. Choose. The crew felt the weight of the choice immediately. One option meant losing innocent lives, the other meant risking an entire strategic position. Harris whispered to Mara, "Commander, if we save the generator, we could hold the base longer and protect many more people later. If we save the civilians now, the enemy will have the base by nightfall." Mara didn't answer right away. She thought about the purpose of these trials. They were designed to see if humanity still had the heart of the ones who came before. "We save the civilians," she said finally. "If the base falls, we'll take it back another day. We can't replace lives once they're gone." The crew moved fast. They set up a defensive perimeter, covering the retreat as civilians were evacuated through emergency transport gates. The fighting was fierce, but they managed to get every last person out before the generator exploded in a burst of light. As the scene faded, the voice returned. "Your choice was costly, yet your kind has always valued life above territory." The trial continues. The chamber dissolved again, and now they were on the bridge of a massive warship. Enemy fleets surrounded them, but this time, they commanded not just one ship but an entire armada, human, alien, and unknown. Communications flooded in from commanders asking for orders. The voice spoke again. "The enemy is stronger. You cannot win this battle. Your only chance to survive is to retreat. But if you retreat, the enemy will overrun the colony behind you. You may instead order a rearguard sacrifice, sending part of your fleet to hold the line while the rest escapes. Those who stay will not return. Choose." Mara's heart pounded. She had been in situations like this before, but never with so much at stake. She could save her crew and fleet, but the price would be the colony. Or she could send ships to certain destruction to save others. She turned to her officers. "We send the rear guard. Volunteers only. Everyone else will escort the colony ships to safety." The volunteers stepped forward without hesitation. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal. The rear guard fought until their last ships were gone, buying enough time for the colony to escape into hyperspace. When it was over, silence filled the chamber once more. The glowing tower pulsed brighter than before. "You have chosen as they did," the voice said. "You value the lives of others above your own survival. You understand that victory is not always in destruction, but in protection." The trial is complete. The chamber faded for the last time, and Mara's crew found themselves back aboard their frigate in the great docking bay. But now, the vast vessel around them was no longer quiet. Lights ran along its walls. Deep hums echoed through its structure, and somewhere far below, engines began to stir. "Commander," Harris said, looking at his console, "I think we just woke it up." Mara watched as the docking bay's massive doors opened, revealing the endless rows of the Black Armada outside. One by one, the enormous ships came alive, hull markings glowing faint silver, engines firing in silent synchronization. Then, without warning, a new transmission came through. This time, it was not just to Mara's ship, it was sent across all human channels in the sector. "We are the Black Armada. We were forged in the fire of the First Great War. We slept through the ages, waiting for the call of those we once fought beside. That call has come. Humanity stands again, and we will stand with them." The comm channels lit up with chatter from the other two frigates waiting outside. The sight before them was like nothing any living being had ever seen. Thousands of warships, each one larger than the greatest dreadnoughts of the current era, moving into perfect formation. Mara opened a secure channel to Commander Owen back near the Meridian Corridor. "Sir, you're going to want to see this." Owen's voice came back, sharp but curious. "Report, sir," Mara said, smiling. Despite herself, "We found them, and they're coming with us." There was a long pause on the line before Owen replied. "Understood. Set course for the front lines. Let's show the Dominion what they're up against." As the Black Armada began to move, the void around them seemed to bend, as if space itself recognized the return of a force it had long forgotten. They traveled in perfect silence, yet the very sight of them carried the promise of war. Far away, in the heart of Dominion space, sensors detected the awakening. Their leaders had no name for this fleet, but the fear in their reports was clear. Something ancient and unstoppable was coming. The Black Armada was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The battle lines stretched across the void like threads of fire. Admiral Rain stood on the bridge of the Horizon Spear, his eyes fixed on the tactical display, the scattered remains of the last skirmish drifted through the dark, but he knew the real fight had not yet begun. The Black Armada was still gathering, and humanity's fragile alliance with the Terni would be tested to its limits. Communications Officer Mira turned from her console. "Admiral, we are receiving a coded transmission from the Terni flagship. Captain Velen requests a direct channel." Rain gave a single nod. "Patch it through." The display shifted, revealing the stern, silver-eyed face of Velen, the Terni. Commander spoke without preamble. "Our scouts confirm that the enemy's command vessel, the Obsidian Crown, has moved into position. This means the Armada's full strike force will be operational within hours." Rain felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. "Then we have less time than expected." Velen leaned closer. "There's more. The Armada is not simply deploying warships. Our intelligence shows they have activated something older, something they call the Echo Engines. I do not yet know what they do, but their activation coincided with an energy spike across the sector." Mira glanced at Rain, concern flickering in her eyes. The Admiral didn't need her to say anything. He already understood what this meant. The Black Armada was not just planning to overwhelm them with firepower. They had another weapon, one the Alliance knew nothing about. Hours later, the Horizon Spear was at the center of the Allied fleet, the Terni ships forming a protective crescent around it. Dozens of smaller human frigates darted between the gaps, acting as scouts and interceptors. Rain stood before the massive star chart in the war room, listening as his strategists argued over the best course of action. "We should strike the Obsidian Crown before they finish whatever these Echo Engines are meant to do," Commander Hale insisted. "If we take their command ship out of the fight, the Armada will lose coordination and leave ourselves exposed to the rest of their fleet," countered Lieutenant Marin. "If we overextend, they'll surround us. We don't even know the range of these Echo Engines." Rain raised his hand, silencing the debate. "Both points are valid, but we cannot afford to sit and wait. We'll send a fast assault group, human and Terni, to disrupt their preparations. The rest of the fleet will hold the line and be ready to respond." Velen's voice came through the comms. "Agreed. I will lead the Terni contingent myself. But understand this, Admiral, if the Echo Engines are what I think they are, disruption may not be enough. We may need to destroy them entirely." The assault group launched within the hour. 6 human frigates and 3 Terni strike ships cut across the dark expanse like silver knives. Rain remained with the main fleet, his mind split between the tactical readouts and the uneasy feeling that this was exactly what the Armada wanted. On board one of the strike ships, Captain Velen watched as the enemy's formation began to shift. The Obsidian Crown loomed ahead, black hull absorbing what little starlight there was around it. Strange structures pulsed with a deep red glow. The Echo Engines, they're massive. Velen's second-in-command whispered. Velen's jaw tightened, and they are not just weapons. They are calling something. Before anyone could ask what he meant, the space between the Echo Engines shimmered. Ripples like liquid shadows spread outward, and a shape began to emerge, a colossal warship unlike anything either species had seen. Its design was jagged, almost organic, and its presence seemed to pull the light out of the surrounding stars. Back with the main fleet. Alarms blared. Mira's voice cut through the noise. Admiral, long-range sensors detect a gravitational anomaly near the enemy command ship. The energy signature matches nothing in our databases. Rand's gaze darkened. They're bringing reinforcements from somewhere else. Not from somewhere else, Marin said quietly. From somewhere else. It was a chilling thought. If the Echo engines could pull ships from another time, perhaps from the Armada's own ancient golden age, then the battle ahead would be unlike any they had prepared for. The assault group didn't have time to retreat. The newly arrived warship turned its black and prow toward them, and without warning, it unleashed a beam of searing energy. One of the human frigates vanished in a burst of white fire. Velen's voice was calm but urgent over the fleet channel. All ships, evasive maneuvers, target the Echo engines. We must cut off their link before more arrive. Human and Terni vessels dove and weaved through the enemy's defensive fire. The Obsidian Crown responded with deadly precision, but the Allied ships pressed on. Velen's own vessel broke through the defensive perimeter, delivering a volley of plasma torpedoes into the nearest Echo engine. The structure shuddered, its red glow flickering. But before they could finish the job, the massive warship moved to intercept. From the bridge of the Horizon Spear, Rain knew the assault was in danger. He had a choice: keep the main fleet in formation as planned, or commit them now in a desperate push to support Velen. Mira looked at him, waiting for the order. Rain's voice was steady, though his heart pounded. Signal the fleet. We're going in. The Allied formation surged forward, engines blazing, weapons charging. The void lit up with fire and metal. Humanity had entered the battle fully now, and the Black Armada's awakening would be met with everything they had. The moment the main fleet joined, the balance shifted. The Terni strike ships coordinated with the human frigates, carving open gaps in the enemy's defenses. Rain's flagship drove straight toward the Obsidian Crown, its heavy cannons pounding the enemy's shields. The Echo engines were weakening, their pulses stuttering, but the ancient warship remained, and as its weapons turned toward Rain's ship, he realized they were only at the beginning of the fight, because if the Armada could summon one ship from the past, there was no telling how many more they could call before the battle was over. The void was alive with fire and thunder. The Allied fleet surged forward, human and Terni ships weaving through the deadly barrage of enemy fire. The Horizon Spear led the charge, its heavy guns blazing toward the Obsidian Crown. Commander Rain gripped the railing on the bridge, his eyes sharp as he watched the enemy warship loom larger on the tactical display. The colossal, ancient vessel moved with surprising grace for its size, its black hull absorbing starlight and sending ripples of dark energy through space. Suddenly, the Obsidian Crown unleashed a massive wave of energy from its main cannon. The blast tore through the empty void and slammed into the Allied ships, knocking several out of formation. Explosions blossomed like deadly flowers, lighting up the darkness with fire and smoke. Damage report, Rain barked. Mira's voice was steady. 3 frigates lost, 5 critically damaged, shields holding on the rest. But energy reserves are dropping fast. Rain's jaw tightened. Keep the fleet together. Focus fire on the Echo engines. If we destroy those, we break their power across the fleet. Ships surged toward the red glowing structures, the Echo engines pulsing with ominous energy. Velen's Terni strike ships moved with practiced precision, launching plasma torpedoes and coordinated missile strikes. Suddenly, the space between the Echo engines rippled again. From the shifting shadows emerged more ships, giant vessels. Unlike anything the Allies had seen, these ancient warships were part machine, part living metal. Their surfaces dark and jagged as if grown rather than built. Their arrival filled the fleet with awe and dread. Velen's voice came over the channel, firm but urgent. The Armada is calling forth its ancient fleet. Prepare for full engagement. Rain glanced at the displays as more warships appeared. The Black Armada was not just waking, it was rising. The battle intensified. Human and Ternai vessels engaged the ancient ships with every weapon they had. Energy beams clashed against shields, explosions rocked the void, and debris floated endlessly in the cold darkness. Rain ordered his flagship into the thick of the fight, firing heavy plasma cannons and coordinating attacks. The Allied fleet fought with courage and determination, but the enemy's power was overwhelming. In the chaos, the Obsidian Crown powered up its main cannon once again. This time, its beam was wider, more focused, aimed directly at the heart of the Allied formation. Brace for impact, Rain warned. The blast hit like a hammer, tearing through ships and scattering them like leaves. The Horizon Spear rocked violently, alarms blaring. But then, from deep within the Allied ranks, a new force appeared. The Black Armada's ancient ships, now fully awake, moved forward in perfect formation. Their black hulls gleamed with silver markings, and their engines emitted a steady hum that filled the void with power. The voice of the Armada echoed through all channels. We stand with humanity. The enemy shall not prevail. The Allied fleet rallied, inspired by the arrival of the Armada's full strength. The ancient ships unleashed devastating volleys of energy, cutting through the Dominion's forces with ease. Rain watched as the tide of battle turned. Ships that had been on the brink of destruction now held firm. The Dominion's fleet faltered, retreating under the combined firepower of humans, Ternai, and the Black Armada. As the enemy fled, Rain felt a sense of hope. Humanity had awakened an ancient power, and together they were pushing back the darkness. Yet, even in victory, he knew the war was far from over. The awakening of the Black Armada had changed everything. It had brought new allies and new dangers. For the Armada's rise meant that other forces, hidden for millennia, might soon stir from their own long sleep. The galaxy's future hung in the balance, and humanity was at the center of it all. The battle had ended, but the war was only beginning. The stars around the Meridian Corridor were no longer quiet. The Black Armada, once silent and forgotten, now moved with purpose alongside humanity's fleet. Their great ships, dark and immense, carved paths through the void, heralding a new age. Commander Rain stood on the bridge of the Horizon Spear, watching the fleet reorganize. Ships from many species repaired damage and prepared for the next fight. The Dominion forces had retreated, but they would return stronger and with more fury. Rain turned to his communications officer, Mira. Send word to Earth. Tell them the Armada is with us now. The tide has turned. Mira nodded and began transmitting the message. The response came quickly. Earth's leaders celebrated the news but warned that caution was needed. The Black Armada was powerful but ancient. Their technology and motives were still mysteries. Meanwhile, Mara and her recon team had returned from the Shattered Belt. They brought with them information about the Armada's origins, a history older than any living race knew. The Armada was created during the First Great War, an ancient conflict where many species fought side by side to stop a dark force from consuming the galaxy. Mara shared her report with Rain. The Armada was designed to awaken when their allies returned. Humanity's rise triggered that signal. They see us as the descendants of those who fought with them. Rain nodded slowly. We have a duty now, not just to fight the Dominion, but to live up to that legacy. The Council of Systems, witnessing the sudden power shift, began to reconsider their stance. Many had doubted humanity's place among the stars, but now they saw the potential for hope. Representatives sent envoys to the front line, seeking to join the new alliance. Yet, even as allies gathered, new threats loomed. The Dominion was regrouping, and rumors spread of secret weapons and mysterious allies unknown to the Council. The awakening of the Black Armada had sent ripples through the galaxy, stirring long-dormant powers. Back on the Horizon Spear, Rain convened his officers. Our next steps are crucial. We must learn more about the Armada's technology and how to fight alongside them. Our scientists will need full access to their systems. Mara, sitting nearby, added. There are still unknown dangers within the Armada's core. We need to proceed carefully. Rain agreed. Prepare for diplomacy and battle. The coming days will test us all, as the fleets move deeper into Dominion space. The legend of humanity's return spread, stories told of brave crews facing impossible odds and of ancient ships awakening to join the fight. The Black Armada was no longer just a myth. For the first time in centuries, hope shone across the stars. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but a new legend had begun, one where humanity and the Black Armada stood together, ready to defend the light against any darkness.